You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles.
We are live, baby, live. Good evening, hello, good morning, and afternoon. This is the Big Vito brand coming to you live, baby, live with another great edition of Getting Color. I hope everybody's having a great evening, morning, afternoon, and night. And I know when you listen to this, it'll be dynamite. I hope everybody's doing good. I am here with the co-host with the most, David Stallworth. That's right, the Virtue man. Virtue, how are you doing today?
Hey, man, what's up, Vito? Here I am, 9 p.m. Eastern, doing this live on Twitch, Getting Color with the Big Vito. And guess what? Vince Russo, who does fantasy baseball in a league that I am in, did the draft at the same time. So I am literally skipping my draft. My buddy's drafting my baseball team for me right now because I'm dedicated to doing this with you.
All right, so now this is how we're starting off Getting Color, okay? Now, this is the hot breaking news. Finally, the Big Vito brand has a case against Vince Russo, the first of its very kind. This isn't Bischoff, whining about the booking. This isn't Pritchard whining about the booking, or Cornette, or Vince McMahon, or Shane McMahon, or anybody. This is Vito LaGrasso coming to grievance with Vince Russo. And let me tell you something. This is going to be good. Vince, you are under investigation. You are officially in wrestler's court. I want to know about the 2 baseball leagues you are hustling. Now, everybody listen, hustling. And not to mention that, one of my guys, all right, is doing a show at this present time while you're doing a draft. Now, Vince, we go way back, and you couldn't cut the guy a break. You think of you, yourself, and I. You think of the Vince Russo brand. On Twitter, it's Vince Russo, the brand, and it's everybody and Vince Russo and nobody else. X, Y, and Z. Come see Vinny Roo. I get it. But to run a scam during the Big Vito time, this is, erroneous. It's erroneous. Now, Virtue, give me your gripes about Vince Russo. I want you to state your case. It's going to wrestle. We might even have to get Disco Inferno involved in this because this is beyond what I can believe in. He's been in plenty of wrestlers' court. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So I've been doing fantasy baseball on Yahoo with Vince since about 2015. I actually won in 2016, and Mr. Russo had to PayPal me like $700.
Yeah.
I won his league. Always has been one league. I know he does other leagues with TNA guys and wrestlers, but he's always done this brand league, one league. This year, 2019, he's doing 2. He's got a team in both of them.
Wow.
Why didn't some of us get an opportunity to join both leagues? But he gets to be in both. And on top of that, he knew I always record Getting Color with you at 9 because you guys used to always record it at 9, right?
Yes, we did.
And I get put in the 9 o'clock league. I get put in the 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern league. Why didn't he put me in the other league that drafted earlier today?
This is controversial, And you want to know something, Virtue? And you want to know something really messed up? Ask me. I got an invite to the league. Did I get an invite? No.
Now, why would he not invite you to the league? Now, I don't know if he still does it, but he used to be in leagues with Dreamer and some of the Impact wrestlers and all that. I wonder if he's still in that league. So if anything, why wouldn't you have been invited into that league? There has to be an opening every year. I do other fantasy leagues. There's always an opening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Miami, thank you for the bits.
Thank you for the bits. Bits for tits is still going on. We're going hard here. Vince Russo is under investigation by the Big Vito brand for the scandal of baseball leagues and not racketeering, but marketeering. That's right, marketeering. That's the new word in wrestling, marketeer. Okay? Now, being that I didn't get an invite to have an inside or play the heavy to go collect for Vinny, did you get a new collector? Did you get a new Luca Brasi? Did you get somebody to do your heavy work, Vin? Huh?
Aren't you supposed to be his best friend?
I'm supposed to be his best friend. You think he would tell me and cut me a slice like the Godfather gets? Hey, thanks for, being in the neighborhood. Here's an envelope. Did I even get that, Vince? Did you even go on my wish list and buy anything with all the winnings from your leagues, Vince? The answer is no. So Vince Russo is officially under investigation. This show is going to be we got to come up with a title. Vince Russo and Big Vito have beef finally.
Finally?
Now, Vito, I wonder, is this going to come back and haunt his San Francisco Giants this year? Are they going to have like injuries or a bad season? Is this going to be karma? He always talks about karma. Is this going to be karma back on Vince and his Giants?
Well, the Giants really haven't been anything, really. They got the third baseman, Lagoria, and Johnny Cueto is on the injured reserve for another year, I believe. And I really don't believe they're even in contention or consideration for a playoff run.
And they're in a division where they got the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, some tough teams. I would even say the Rockies are somewhat competitive. Whereas I live in Cleveland, and everybody's saying, Indians, you've made your team worse over the last year. Well, they're in the AL Central. It's a horrible division. The Twins might be the next best team. So the Indians can coast during this regular season, right? And then if they do want to make a serious run to October, make some changes later in the season when they can evaluate injuries, streaks. So, again, I'm not a big Indians fan, even though I live in Cleveland, but they're going to be better than the Giants.
We have a question.
I know Blowfish made a comment that Vince already said the Giants are going to stink this year. Maybe that's why.
He's playing the reverse psychology, so if they do stink, he could say he said that.
Now, you know what, Virtue? The fact that Vince said the Giants are going to stink this year, okay, and he's doing the draft while you're working for the Big Vito brand, I smell like scandal. This is big scandal stuff.
He's hoping that I put it on autopilot or I get the auto picks and I get some injured guys on my roster. Well, I was one step ahead of Vince. I had my boy Bubba, who's been doing fantasy leagues with me. He's beat me in leagues. He's one of my biggest rivals. He is drafting this team for me right now, and we're going to split the entry fee and the winnings. So think about this, Vince. When you're on during the day, right, and you're trying to make those free agent pickups or make trades, I'm going to be on my phone. I'm going to have Bubba on his phone. And guess what? That's two people running this team. I guarantee a victory. You are going to owe me PayPal of first place money. Guaranteed. I'm calling it now, Vince Russo.
Call out the big Vito brand. Now, not to get you in any hot water with the internet and Meltzer and everything, so I'll do it for you. The big Vito brand is calling out Vince Russo for baseball scandals. I hope this hits the press. I hope Gerwick.net picks it up. I hope WrestleZone picks it up. I even hope the WWE picks it up because they know they like to blow friggin' Vince Russo out of the water. Bruce Pritchard, if you're listening, pick this story up. Bischoff, Cornette, all the guys who hate Vince Russo, pick it up because now his longtime buddy, Big Vito, we got beef, okay? And this is mob stuff, right? Big mob stuff. Speaking of mob stuff, did everybody hear about the big hit on Staten Island?
Vito, you got to smarten me up on this. I heard about that, and when I read it, I thought it was one of those fake stories because I'm sitting there thinking, we still have that type of stuff in 2019?
We still have that kind of stuff in 2019, my friend.
That is interesting. Now, my mom's maiden last name is Naples, which is an Italian last name. So there's in Ohio area, the Youngstown area, if you go on Google and you look up Naples, there are some ties to some mob type guys in my family, in my blood, but I'm definitely nowhere close to you, Big Vito, when it comes to that. But indulge me here with this. Organized crime is still a big thing.
Organized crime is still a big thing. Organized crime still exists. It's just not on the social media out in the open like it used to be when John Gotti was doing things. It has gone more underground and more shush and a hush like it's supposed to be because it's not supposed to be advertised.
That's interesting because I wonder do we know how he got knocked off?
What the story says is that somebody staged a car crash in front of his house while he was having dinner. He ran out to see what happened. Person jumped from the driver's seat, emptied out his emptied about 6-7 shots, left the scene. The dummy who did this left a fingerprint on the car instead of just, using his rounds, dropping the weapon or taking the weapon with him. Instead, he touched the car. So he left fingerprints on the car. So that's how he got arrested.
Dude, why don't we, when I think of stuff like this, I think, oh man, I'm going to see this as a movie on Netflix or something. Can you tell me this? Why don't we get good mob movies anymore like we used to? Did they overplay them too much? I mean, that's one of my favorite genres because it gets you as close to seeing that stuff without having to worry about being in it.
Well, let me tell you something. We got the last good movie I saw when John Travolta did Gotti. That was a pretty good movie. I mean, if you knew, I grew up during that time. I came up during that era of mob, and that was the thing back then, and that was the guy, and those were the families you worked for, whether it was the Castellano family, the Bellattis or anybody else in that time. And you know what? Being that you were part of that group in Staten Island, you didn't advertise things. Everybody just knew who you were, who you belonged to. If you said, yeah, this guy's with us and this legit happened, where, I tell everybody about the famous fight I had down in Gargiulo's. Gargiulo's is a famous restaurant in Coney Island by Howard Beach. And I was bouncing one night. This was, we have a question?
No, comment.
All right.
Miami says favorite mob movies, Casino and Goodfellas.
Casino and Goodfellas. Very realistic and very good.
Nice.
So this is a true story, guys. So I'm bouncing one night for a Christmas party, trying to earn some money. So my buddy says, "You want to bounce with us? We want to have Gargiulo." So I was already had an in. So I was like, "Yeah, no problem, we'll go." So at the time I was 275. I was just starting wrestling. This is about 97, 98. Yeah, this was before ECW, I think. And I'm about 275. I just come back from Puerto Rico, and doing a Christmas party. Fight breaks out outside. So they said, "Vito, fight outside. Go break it up." So I go outside, and there's a bunch of guys fighting. Thanks for the bits. Appreciate it. We're outside, and a fight breaks out, and we think it's with our club. So the club, we go out, we break up the fight. There's this older man, and he keeps coming at me, and I push him off. I shove him away. They bring him across the street. Then he comes charging at me again. This time I lift him up. I slam him on the windshield of the car, and I'm ready to crack him so hard it would have knocked the tires off this car. And my buddy hooks my arm. He goes, "No, he's a made guy." So once that was heard, all of a sudden everybody just stopped fighting, and my buddies are dragging me through the fence. They had a huge fence where they parked the cars in Gargiulo's. So they're dragging me by my suit jacket. I'm going after these 5 guys who were fighting, and I'm going after the guy who came at me. And once they grabbed me behind the fence and they closed the fence, the guy goes, "Oh, you think you're a tough guy? Why don't you come out?" I said, "I will kill all you motherfuckers." I said, "I don't give a shit who you are. I go up over the fence." They're pulling me down. And I lost my mind. I was that crazy. I would fight 5 guys. I would fight 7 guys. It didn't matter. So they calmed me down. They pay me. They said, "Vito, all right, gotta go." I go home. Next day, my brother calls me. My brother calls me and says, "Vito, did you get in trouble last night?" I says, "No. Why? Did you get into a fight?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "I was in this club." I says, "And I was in." He said, "Vito," he says, "this is all over." I said, "They're looking for you now." He said, "The old man just went to 18th Avenue." I says, "Are you serious?" And at that time, me and my old man weren't speaking, but my old man was like, nobody's going to touch my son. And we all kind of like, when it came push to shove, if you need connections, it was there. But I never, banked on my father to help me out. So he went down to 18th Avenue and then saw my buddy. He said, "Vito, He says, I got some news for you. I said, what's up? He says, the guy you were going to bang last night was a made guy. He says, there's a big meeting going on in Gargiulo's, and they want you bad. They want you dead. I said, that's fine. I really don't give a shit. You could tell me, come on down to Staten Island and find me. I don't care. That's how crazy I was. I didn't give a shit. So when my brother calls me, he says, listen, I think everything is calmed down. I said, then my buddy came up, found me later on, and he says, Vito, I got some news for you. I said, what's up? He says, well, they had a meeting at Gargiulo's with 5 brothers. He says, you're not allowed in Gargiulo's ever again. You're barred. And he says, don't ever go there. He says, because things will be bad. I said, well, what about the guy? I said, the guy got in trouble because he's a made guy and he's fighting outside the coffee shop. His fight was from the coffee shop next door, not the club Gargiulo's. So I didn't do anything wrong technically. And they said, he went out to break up a fight. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not to be touched. Then when they found out who I was with in Staten Island, I double couldn't be touched. And nobody was coming to hunt me down because I was protected, not from just my father, but from who I was with in Staten Island. So nobody was coming to get me. So 11 o'clock at Island Fitness, who comes up after I walk out of the gym was the guy and this other guy. I threw out my bag and I was like, all right, let's go. He goes, no. So we're not here to fight. So I'm just here to tell you, this is forgotten about and this is squashed. I said, don't ever come to Staten, don't ever come to Gargiulo's or Coney Island again. And I legit thought I was going to get 6. But the guy came and he made sure he had somebody with him because I was going to kick the shit out of him, and I really didn't care. And I think they got the gist of I was just a crazy bastard, and I really didn't give a shit.
Yeah, dude, I don't have any stories like that. So, wow. All I can divert to is talking about great gangster movies because I have no real life experience with that. I'm a Andy Garcia mark and a Al Pacino mark. So the 3 Godfathers and the Untouchables. Those are my go-to mob movies.
Yeah, but you know what it is too. It's like when I was coming up, I was given jobs. I was given labor jobs. I was more or less, somebody's bodyguard or somebody's. I was to watch the job, and hey, here's a job, $33 an hour. I want you to sit here and watch this, and I want you to sit here and watch him. So, and then it was kind of like, I worked my way into where, I had an easy job. I really didn't do nothing. And all I was doing was getting paid. And then, I was entrusted, but not by just my family, but somebody else's family. And then, it was just one of those things where it was a good situation for me at the time. And everybody knew, I was bouncing in the clubs. I never got beat. You know what I mean? I made my way. And when it came time to kick ass or do something, that's how I made a name for myself in Staten Island. So it was pretty good. So,
dude, now so let's go over to Chicago area a little bit. Did they ever find Jimmy Hoffa's body?
No, emails all the time.
So what do you think? Like chopped into pieces and put in Lake Michigan? Like really, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's 100 different takes on this.
Verrazano Bridge.
Interesting. And that's there in Chicago, right? Where's that at?
When it was under construction, the Verrazano Bridge.
New York.
So.
Oh.
Yes, where it is.
You know where it is?
Wasn't Hoffa's big organized crime scheme, though, based out of Chicago? Wasn't he the Chicago one, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I think he's thinking of somebody else.
Okay.
But that's all for our mob hits today. So Vince Russo, consider yourself on the list. I heard that saying before. You're on the list.
Yeah.
No one said that. You're on the list.
I don't know. It's somebody that's somebody out there. I don't know.
Yeah, out there. I don't know his name.
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
Anyway, on our list of stuff we got to talk about on the show, and remember, Bits for Tits, guys, Bits for Tits. Virtue, why don't you give us your plugs real quick before we go on with the show? I hope everybody's enjoying this on Twitch.
All right, so follow me on Twitter at @NoDQ_Virtue. You can also go to my Facebook, which is easy to go to because it's nodq.com/virtue with a lowercase v. If you go to those 2 social media platforms of mine, you're going to see all my videos, all my columns, all the stuff I do with the Big Vito brand. It's all right there.
All right. We just had a question about who would be a memorable mob figure in the WWE. Right now, no one. The only one who could be somebody is the Don Big Vito himself.
All right. I'm going to piggyback off of that, Vito. I think you've hinted at this. You being Enzo Amore's bodyguard, that would be mob. Those two. Put them on TV and let you guys run loose. That's what I think. Enzo Amore and Big Vito.
If that came to happen, the two most hated people that WWE doesn't like, Enzo Amore and Big Vito walking in, getting some serious heat, not only from the office, but from the fans.
Dude, if they were creative, Vito, they would hire you two, and part of your gimmick would be going around like gangsters, looking to, beat up people, because we do got to keep it within the realm of, peace, politically correct. But so not capping people, but beating them up, finding out who's responsible for concussions, for letting them happen. Why not address the elephant in the room and bring you on TV? That would be freaking ratings.
That's great.
That would be
serious. I'm not trolling. Vince McMahon needs to open. Dude, they're breaking the fourth wall down with Ronda. People want to see that stuff.
That's the truth. And then I finally get to Daniel Bryan, and we're standing there by the water cooler, and go, I know you from somewhere. I just forget.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. And there's plenty of material for writers then. Of course, would that writing crew that they have be able to write up to your guys' talent, or would they pull you guys down to their shitty writing talent? That's what Vince Russo always says, that happens. Talent gets pulled down these days.
I got to tell you something, okay? All seriousness, if this came to happen, where they put me and Enzo together, and he had somebody like me with him, not only as a bodyguard, but somebody to help mentor him in the wrestling business and really be, cool with him and teach him right and wrong or whatever. Because he has experience. He kind of got a raw deal, kind of misunderstood. But if you look at it, that guy had 205 Live off the hook every time he came on TV. He was ratings. He had merchandise. He was a money maker for the WWE. They just dropped the ball.
And it's not like they pushed him to the moon. He was on 205 Live, which is on the WWE Network and YouTube. Right. He was a cruiserweight guy, but yet he was making, when he left, when they fired him, that show tanked. It went it was in the top 10 on the network. It tanked. They actually moved it to another night or before. He literally moved a needle, right? And him and Big Cass, I don't know what Cass's issue was, because he stayed there a little bit longer, but then eventually got released. They sold merchandise. Enzo and Cass merch was right towards the top. I think it was actually in the #1 slot at some point. Sports entertainment, Vito. But lo and behold, WWE had to let go Enzo. You want to talk about, didn't Enzo just recently say he thinks the product today is shit? What do you have to say about Enzo's recent take on WWE? You think that's just him being salty, burying him because he's not there? Is that him believing in himself so much to where if he was there, he wouldn't say that, because he'd be like, well, no, the show's not shit. I'm on it. What's your take on Enzo recently saying stuff like that?
Well, I got to tell you guys, when you are a draw and you are running things on TV, okay, and you get released, but you keep your words to your mouth, but you know what you did, and everybody knows how you presented yourself. Was he money on TV? Was he the man? Was he making dollars and getting your attention? Absolutely. Probably one of the best entrances ever in the WWE history, second to none to The Undertaker. That's where I rate that entrance. Now, if you're talking about work rate in wrestling, he wasn't a wrestler. He did the best he could, but you expected that because he carried it with the stick. Now, him coming across and saying the product isn't what it is, he's telling the truth. The product is not what it is, and the product is not up to stuff, and everybody knows it. So he's not lying. He's not burying it. He's just saying that the product is not where it's supposed to be. WWE is supposed to be at 6-7 million. It's lucky if it's making 2 million. But the fact that they are making dollars hand over fist, they're doing something correct, as we talked about before we got on air, is the fact that their revenue is so up and people are paying for it. But are they paying for it out of
habit?
Are they paying for it out of necessity? Are they paying for it because there's no other wrestling company out there to watch?
So here's what I want to ask, because Dave Meltzer, yep, we said his name, recently said that in 2018, last year, he said WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, was the worst wrestling promotion. Now, I know creative and booking has been shoddy, right? I understand that. We know Meltzer is a Japan mark, a Ring of Honor mark, a Young Bucks mark, a Cody mark, AEW now. But to say a company...
He's a Vince Russo mark, because he writes about him all the time. Again.
But I mean, to say a company is the worst of its kind when WWE made more money than any other wrestling company combined in 2018, right? Employs more people, including ring crew, TV crew, all of that, than any other wrestling promotions combined. By default, you can't say it's the worst. You might say it's in the middle of the pack because you don't like creative. It might be towards the bottom, but that is a complete troll by Meltzer, and I'm calling him out. It's bullshit. I understand people don't like creative and booking.
Question there.
Go ahead.
We do.
Hold on.
If you remove the income from the Saudis, would WWE still be making that much money?
Yes. Not obviously, Vito, I don't mean to cut you off. They wouldn't have the Saudi money, but they sold a stadium show to Australia. So if they didn't have the Saudi money, they would have sold another show to Australia. The fact is, yes, domestic ratings are down. Yes, house show attendance, live attendance on SmackDown is down. But the domestic part of their income isn't the end-all be-all like it used to be. The network is in 50-plus countries. They tour. They have global income, and it makes up for that. Now, obviously, if they didn't have the Saudi deal, the Fox deal, the USA deal, their stock wouldn't be at $92 a share, but it would probably still be pretty high from what it used to be. Vince McMahon, why, Vito? He can throw money away trying to do the XFL for a second time. What person fails at something like that in a market where he has no experience and tries it again? Somebody that has that extra money that makes it from what he's great at. They make money.
Well, it could be a tax write-off, because every business has tax write-off, guys. And I can tell you that it could be, just he's bored. He wants another project to do. I don't know. I'm not in his mind. But to say that, he can, he could do all these things and he can make things happen. I mean, hey, good for him. He's got that kind of cash flow, and he's doing it. We have another question in there.
Yes, it says 2.5 million watch. Who cares about 612 dummies that voted, because it only is a 612 votes altogether?
Okay, so 612 votes. Now
for the Meltzer poll. But the fact is, so 612 people only voted that. Meltzer still had the gall to put that out on his. I mean, Meltzer decided to put it in his Observer or whatever he does. So I still blame Meltzer. It's asinine.
But I think everybody gives him too much credit for what he's doing and making. We're just talking about. We're not trying to give him a plug. He's just conversational piece.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you look at the stuff, I mean, I could put up ridiculous stuff every day, and people would say, "Vito, you're an ass." But I don't want that. I put stuff up once a week. I talk about good things. I'm giving honest opinion. I don't bury it. When there's good stuff on WWE, I'm the first one to say, I like it. It's good. It's great. I love it. And when there's this crap on TV, and I get up and walk away from the TV, I can't do it. I just, I get sick to my stomach. And, if you ever looked at something that I looked at, and I was thinking the other day, if you look at the writers they have and the people they have there who are writing the TV, okay, follow along. If you go about all the writers they have, how many writers are on the staff who have actually been involved in top-rated storylines and bookings and how many of them have been in a company where they've been on top? We have a question first.
Because Meltzer is a jabron. Vito wears glasses indoors, so we're not all perfect.
We're not all perfect. No.
First of all, I often wear glasses indoors too. And Vito's a wrestler. I played a manager in the Indies. It's cool, bro. Wearing glasses indoors is cool. Bret Hart even thought so.
Okay, now getting back to my analytic point of view here, and I think if everybody follows along, they'll get the gist of it. Like I said, how many of the new creative producers and writers have been in top angles and been involved in being a WWE superstar where they can actually write good storylines that make money? I want you to name the guys who are the writers and creative and who are the agents, and tell me if those guys are capable of putting together a quality show that will draw ratings.
The only one I'll mention, and it's still suspect, is Bruce Pritchard, because he's been there before, but we know the history of what happened with him being one of Vince's go-to creative guys, especially in the Attitude Era. But I mean, Bruce played the brother love gimmick on TV. He was over as an heel interviewer. He helped get The Undertaker over early on with the whole DiBiase brother love thing before Paul Bearer came. And now he's back, and it looks like there's some effort. I don't know what he's responsible for, but the stuff blowing up on social media, the breaking the fourth wall, I might say maybe he has a little bit to do with that. But outside of him, which I'm suspect on, Vito, nobody, right?
Nobody. Now, they just hired a bunch of creative guys. They just hired a bunch of producers. What are they producing if they've never been in the ring as a top flight talent or been involved in a top flight money-making storyline or, rivalry that drew a dime? Think about it.
Vince likes his yes men, and that's what the writers are today. And I believe that none of them are the compelling writing that they could give Vince. They're afraid to tell him stuff because they'll think Vince will fire them for being outside the box. They're too cookie cutter today, Vito. And Noel, if someone calling me a jabron, that means I'm doing something right. So I've already said I'm a mark. I'm not on here trying to be a pro like Vito. Vito has me on here for the no DQ, the wrestling with wrestling demographic, reaching out to those other sites. I'm a columnist. So thank you, Vito.
And you know what? And we have a question.
Now Brett says, don't worry, Virtue. Dana Warrior is going to fix all of this mess.
Dana Warrior is going to fix all this, but no disrespect
for her.
Dana Warrior. We're not knocking you. We're not harming you. We're not saying anything bad.
We're not harming you.
We're just saying like it is, from a journalistic and analytic point of view. You're watching the TV like we are, and you're saying to Vince, hey, this sucks. You have a bigger name than I do because you're Ultimate Warrior's wife. But when you look at the same kind of, analytic thing, we're watching the same crap, both of us on TV. So it's not too far-fetched. And then when you talk about Enzo Amore having to say, he's been on the top. He sees what it's like. He knows what it's like to roar the crowd. Not to say that I've been on the tippy top, but I know what it's like to be in a hot storyline with the dress, to be the focal point, to be that guy. We have a question. We have a question.
No.
Oh, we just have. Okay. Anyway,
it's very incoherent there. Yeah, Vito. I mean, if Dana Warrior, maybe Bailey will come out in tassels and face paint like the Warrior. Maybe that'll be her contribution to creative. Well, and why I said Bailey, because I don't know why not.
All right, now you're talking about the storylines. You're talking about probably the most guy who was the most beloved and going to the most hated and talked about, shittiest gimmick going on today. Daniel Bryan with his gimmick of the underdog, which is getting no love from anyone, but seems to be the heel. We have a question.
Yes, Kevin Sullivan. Did he ever work with Vince McMahon?
I believe Kevin Sullivan worked for WWE a very long time ago. I don't know if he worked in a booking capacity. That answers
Oh,
your question.
Vito, he also asked, could Kevin help WWE TV if he worked there today?
Could how Kevin Sullivan help WWE TV? I'm sure he could help in the sense of bringing psychology to the angles to make it believable on TV. That makes sense to people? Can that be a yes? That could be an absolute truth. Paul Heyman tries to bring his philosophy on wrestling to the table. It might not be well liked because he's outspoken. Kevin Sullivan comes in and tries to write some storylines or bring some psychology, just like, in essence, Arn Anderson did. Maybe it'd be receptive, maybe it wouldn't. Who knows? But
I agree. I mean, and again, Vito, there's the whole thing where if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, does it ruin things? You know, great ideas get lost in the shuffle? I look at back the most successful era of ratings, which I'm like a broken record, was the Attitude Era. And that creative team was small. It was just a few guys in Vince's dining room. And look what happened in WCW. It originally was Bischoff, right? Maybe Sullivan, maybe a couple other, and then the egos, it imploded. And look what happened to WCW because too many cooks in the kitchen.
well, I'm going to say something out there, and I know Noel's listening. I know you're listening to people out there, and I want to ask a general question. We have Bits. Thank you very much. Bits for tits. Bits for tits.
That's Virtue because he's not a Jabron.
All right, not a Jabron.
I mean, he is a Jabron.
Now,
Yeah, I'm a Jabron, so you get 10 bits. I'm cheap.
I have for everybody out there, and I want everybody to really think about this when they're listening to this in their cars, when they tune in tomorrow, or when they put this on, during their time when they listen to Getting Color. We talk about Bischoff, we talk about Pritchard, we talk about Russo, we talk about Cornette. We talk about Vince McMahon. Before these guys came along, the wrestling business had other writers and other creative people. Can you name them who made wrestling successful?
You're putting me on the spot. So basically, who worked with Vince in booking shows, say pre-92? Gosh, I mean, Lawler was still doing his Memphis stuff, and I'll argue. I mean, Lawler was very creative. To me, you got to give Lawler part credit to sports entertainment just as much as Vince McMahon because Lawler did the Andy Kaufman stuff. But
Right.
God, I don't know who worked with Vince before 92. What's that?
I don't know if you've seen, but I posted on Facebook the Eddie Gilbert angle, which I was a part of. Eddie Gilbert Lawler, where Skull Von Crush came running down to the ring, and I got to be part of that great angle, the feud that went on for years. You're talking about Jerry Lawler and Eddie Gilbert. You talk about a Vince McMahon Sr. who made realism and made real angles. Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan before he was Hulk Hogan, a Pedro Morales, a Stand Man Stasiak, all the characters that we look in awe of today, right? So there's three guys. Then you have a guy named Crockett. You have a guy named Bill Watts. You have
Bill Watts. That's a good call right there, Vito.
So I just named a bunch of guys who, before the WWE became the mainstay, these guys actually drew in territories and drew money in other places. That's where we got the Rock and Roll Express from. That's where the Macho Man came from. That's where Kofi B Ware came from Stagger Lee. The original Hulk Hogan, Austin Idol, the Moondogs, Magnum TA.
Could we put Vern Gagne in this discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about some of the greats in wrestling that we don't talk about today because they're not in the WWE era. But when we didn't have the WWE, we had that wrestling, and that was the brand of wrestling that made money, and those guys made money in the wrestling business.
So you bring this up, and I'm thinking of today, this ridiculous, this ludicrous Kofi mania. And if I were to go back in a time machine, back to this era we're talking about, and just because I'm 38 years old, let's go back to the late 80s because I remember wrestling. I know you went back a little farther than that. And I get YouTube. I can go see anything in the network. But let's go back to the golden era of WWF, the late 80s. Kofi Mania today would be the equivalent of back then of having Coco Mania in the main event of WrestleMania. No, because what happened, Vito? Wrestlers aren't larger than life anymore. They are or characters. They are exactly that, wrestlers. And I'm losing interest in a lot of these wrestlers. What do you think about that, me saying that? I like the characters.
I think the characters need to come back a la Skull Von Crush the German, right? And, everybody talks about, characters. Let's see. Before Skull Von Crush, there was Skull Murphy. There was the Bad Foreigners, right? Who everybody hated. You had the Iron Sheik. You had, throw some names at me.
Fritz Von Erich.
Who?
Fritz Von Erich.
Ivan Koloff.
Fritz Von Erich.
Fritz Von Erich. Ivan Koloff.
How far back did Bad News Brown go?
That Bad News Brown. You talk about guys who were villains. Like you talk about Nikolai Volkov, the Bolsheviks.
Yep.
Talking about all those guys. Who
Didn't Backlund have a heel run?
No, he just went.
That was later. Never mind. That was later. That was like, and when he came back, Diesel and Brett in the 90s. That's what I was thinking of.
And even the Mounties. Remember the Mounties? You know what I'm saying? Talking about Ludwig Borga. That was a name that was undefeated who broke Tatanka's streak. That guy could have been bigger than life.
And would you argue that these guys that we're mentioning were very interchangeable as needed into the main event scene, whether it was a heel to go against the babies like Bruno or Hogan, versus today they're putting wrestlers in the main event because the fans chant their names. But then what happens, what I've noticed, Becky, like, why are we not talking about Becky Mania? She's supposed to be the hottest thing going into WrestleMania right now, but because they've kind of did the triple threat angle with her, gave Ronda and Charlotte a lot of the attention, now the fans are calling Kofi Mania. They are never happy today, Vito. And what happens is when their favorite flavor of the month gets to that chase and gets it, then they don't like them anymore. Then they got to find the next person they want to cheer to the top. And I just remember back then they could just be fans and react organically. That's what I miss.
All right, 1 second. We got a question.
Rev said people used to laugh at him when he would say Adrian Adonis was a great character.
Adrian Adonis, another great character. Okay, I get you. And your answer to your question, and we said this, and you wanted my view on this, Kofi Kingston has a cult following. That's why he's over right now. It's a cult following, guys.
I'm gonna start tweeting Coco Mania. Let's see how people are gonna hate me even more now. Whatever. Coco, you get it, right? Coco. I'm gonna say the only thing we're missing is Frankie. Wasn't that his bird?
No, I get it. And I see what you're saying, and you're being, and you're making a point, but then you want to make you're kind of like, and don't take this the wrong way, you're kind of mocking it. If you're going to stick with your point of being that you don't understand it, it's a cult following. Coco B Ware, he was over for what he was. He did the bird thing. He was charismatic. He had a lot of charisma. He had the bird. He had a gimmick, and he went for a while. You know what I mean? He lasted a long time.
He was popular. I agree. And Kofi's popular, but they're mid-carders in my opinion. And I hate saying that because I'm not like a worker, but that's my opinion, my observation, and it's just annoying, But I get what you're saying, though.
Okay, I'll give you for instance. Okay, you do Aaron's show.
Yep. NoDQ.com. Yep.
NoDQ.com. Now you have Aaron, you have you, and who else do you have on the show now?
Big G and TJS. Yeah, a far cry from Jexy and the Big Vito, but right. It is what it is.
From those four, when the four of us were doing that show, it was a very successful show where you had four different opinions. You had one legit guy. You had three other young analysts who come along, one established analyst who had his own brand. You had yourself and Jessica, who was really new. So you have four different views, right? Now, before us four got together, who was the previous four?
Well, it wasn't even a 4-panel show. It was really one guy's show, and he did it with Aaron. We won't mention names because there's some controversy the way he left the site. And then he pulled me in because then he was like, well, let's have 3 people so we can have more opinions. So that's kind of where that started. It really started with a 1-man show to a 2-man show. You know, it evolved.
Okay. So, you know, from the original 4-man show, which you'd say, I know we got a lot of bits for tits and we got a lot of people saying stuff in there. Just give me a second, guys. Like from the original 4-man show to this 4-man show, I'm sure you have comparisons, and I'm sure if you wrote, you know, which are the all-time favorites, which 4 would you pick to be on your all-time favorite panel? I bet you'd be surprised at what the people would pick and what they would like. Would they pick the original 4? Would they pick 2 and 2? Would they pick a mix? Would they stick with the new 4 versus the old 4? Would they stick with the original 2? What would the people choose? And that's how you get what's a good product and what's a bad product.
Well, I would go with the highest ratings, and I would say Aaron, me, you, and Jexy. I mean, that's whatever. You know what I mean, though. I'm a numbers guy, Vito. Sorry.
When you talk about the numbers for that show, I remember we used to get 3,000 or 4,000, right?
Yeah.
What are you getting now?
We were still getting around the same, but depending on if some of the WWE storylines are really frustrating people, and that's our main topics, we'll be lucky to get 3 some weeks. But it's still, you know, it's still flat lines there. It's not like we've been dipping, but we're not hitting much higher than that like before.
Right, but the ratings drop because the talent dropped. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Right. So, I mean, and that's what you have, you know, that's what the thing is, guys. You know, you got to have talent to portray the characters that everybody wants. You know, and like Daniel Bryan, he's, you know, right now he's shit in the bed, and like they don't like his gimmick. I just think with the beard and everything and all the stuff that he's doing being a heel and the following, like I told Aaron, I would love to see him join the Wyatt family. And if they can make that a strong core 4 for a long time, I think that would be the ultimate best. And I think he would thrive in a group instead of a single, because as a single, I don't think he's going that well. But I think if he got with the Wyatts, I think they would do everything out of the box, him better than being Randy Orton with the Wyatts. I think the original Wyatts, and I think if you put those 4 back together, I think you'd have something great.
So if they do Kofi Mania at WrestleMania and Kofi versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship, which it's looking that way, you'd rather see Kofi get the push than Bryan. Is that what you're saying? Or am I putting words in your mouth?
I would say give Kofi a chance to have a push. I mean, let's see what he could do. I mean, they don't have anybody in the box right now.
Well, keep it on Bryan and keep shoving him as that villain, that earther, that vegan, the guy you don't like. But we'll see, you know. Oh, by the way, in case I'm going to scroll back through Twitch real quick here, Vito. Someone mentioned, you know, we know him as the 1-man gang, but he became Akeem. Somebody thought they liked his character was great. Then they mentioned Slick is the manager, the Reverend Slick. So some shout outs there. And of course, someone asked, will Getting Color be moving back to Vince Russo's The Brand, or will Vito be starting something new? So Noel kind of answered that in the chat. Do you have any input on that you want to tell everybody here on Getting Color?
We are doing a new show for ourselves. We're doing something different, and it's called
This Week in Wrestling History.
This Week in Wrestling History with Big Vito LaGrasso. And we took the concept from an old show that WWE had.
Oh, I created this concept.
Okay, we created this concept, but I thought we got it from some other concept. Anyway, it's going to be something this week in wrestling history where we go back on the day, because what people don't realize is I've been wrestling for 27 years, and I've been involved in almost a lot of good stuff in 27 years. I've probably been in it, know of it, or, you know, was in it.
So backstage when it happened.
Backstage when it happened. So when you're talking about the great Russo Hulk Hogan thing, how many people know that I was sharing a dressing room that night with Hogan? It was just me and him in the room. That was it. How many people?
Match at the beach, 2000?
Yeah.
How many people were at the Steiner DDP fight? How many people Oh God, how many people were there the night Brett got concussed by Goldberg? How many people were there when
WrestleMania with Donald Trump.
hold on, WrestleMania with Donald Trump? How about Sid when he broke his ankle? And I was there during the booking meeting when they told him to jump off the second rope to do this, and he was like, "No, I don't know. I never did it before." He said, "Yeah, you got to do something different." So he broke his ankle, and but you know, that's where it is right now. I think.
Let me ask you about that, Vito, on Sid. Why didn't he say, F you, no, I'm not doing that spot? I mean, that's Sid. Was he, I mean, I know he was a different person backstage and on camera, but like, why didn't he challenge that more?
Because it was something where John Laurinaitis wanted to see guys do something different. And John had that thing where he can convince guys to try something different just to beef some stuff up. It's just like it was a pay-per-view. I'll give it to you quick. It was me, John, and Batista were standing there during we're going over Batista's match, and John was picking my brain. He said, "What do you think Dave could do?" I said, "Well, he hasn't jumped off the rope, and he hasn't done a few things like that. I think if you have a spot where he can knock somebody down, jump off the rope, knock them down again, and give him some flight, I think it would be good." And a lot of times when I would stand around the ring, they'd say, "Vito, what do you think about this?" Or, "Vito, what do you think about that?" And I love being involved like that because I'm very creative, and I could look at a guy and say, "Okay, you could do this safely, you could do that safely." Well, if you remember, I don't remember what show it was or what pay-per-view, but it was the first time Dave went off the top rope and gave a flying shoulder tackle or gave something flying off the top rope. And he never did that before. And people popped. They said, "Wow, Batista went off the top rope." And that's because we were all talking about it. And I said, "Dave, what do you think about doing this?" I said, "I think you could do this." He said, "Well, I'm a big guy." He says, "There's something different. It's safe. If you can't do it off the top, do it off the second."
No,
So,
you did the elbow. Was that your first big aerial move, or did you do other stuff?
No, the elbow was the first aerial move I did. I used to when I first started dive over the top rope, but sometimes guys would catch me, so guys didn't, so I kind of stopped that. You know, so
Smart man, smart man.
So I mean that was interesting, but I mean doing the aerial stuff, I did a lot of off the top rope because it was safe, and I was safe for the guys, and I knew where I was going to land.
Yeah, good times, man.
All right, Virtue, we have covered just about everything, and I got to ask for your plugs one more time.
All right, so follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. Go to my Facebook, nodq.com/virtue with a small v. You will see the indie stuff I do around Cleveland posted there. All my videos and columns, go to either one. That I don't use anything as personal. It's all Virtue, baby.
All right, all Virtue. And for the big people here who are on Twitch, hit the red button, be a subscribe, baby, subscribe. It's free. Go to Amazon. It's free. Go to the Big Vito brand. It's free. Subscribe to all our stuff. Go to Patreon. Go to Twitch. Go to our Facebook. Go to Twitter and subscribe, people. And I know everybody is digging the beard. The beard, just, you know, it's the new look. It's the mob scene. It's just being cool. And you never know who's going to be in that new detective movie coming out. All right, people, this has been another great edition of Getting Color. Remember, check the scandal with Vince Russo. We got beef. You know, Vince is under investigation. That's going to be the new headlines for tomorrow. And for all you out there, Reese's Pieces, peace out, and I'll see you later.